All right. Dhanyavad Prashant Apka. Let's look at some international news now. The entire local government municipality building in the northern Iranian city of Karaj is currently engulfed in flames. Anti-government protesters have targeted government buildings in one of the largest demonstrations in the country in years. Let me go across to my colleague Ajay, who's live on the broadcast with us for this. Ajay, obviously the scenes that are coming out from Iran are very shocking firstly, and also these protesters now are taking to arson. They have set government buildings on fire as a protest against the government.
Yes, definitely. It's a very shocking visual because we have seen that how not only one or two, but number of government buildings were set on fire by the protesters, those who are protesting against the Khamenei. And, I think what is fueling them again and again that US, president who is continuously praising and saying that if any action is taken against the protester and anybody is killed, then they will definitely come in come into action. So that seems to be the reason, and that's why municipal building of Tehran that have been set on fire by the protester, and we can see that how it was burning like anything. So that clearly indicates that the situation in Iran is very critical, and authorities over there on the ground, they are not able to tackle the situation as far as the protesters in thousands of number. They are continuously moving on the roads, and whatever they want, they are doing it.
Absolutely, Ajay. Stay on with us. We have some more inputs on this story. Iranian protesters continue to take to the streets, demonstrating against the government. And protesters openly take to the streets with what they call the true flag of Iran. Now, this flag actually depicts the lion and the sun, which is rising up against the Islamic regime. In fact, take a look at those visuals coming in. All right, in fact, those visuals, you can see the people waving that flag that they call as the true flag of Iran. So, Ajay, if I can come back to you on this, obviously these were protests that started on an economic front, and now they have taken a whole new nature. These are anti-regime protests, and before 1979, Iran had this monarchy where they had their own flag. After that, they changed the flag to the Islamic Republic right now that we were seeing. And today we are seeing people with a true new flag that they are waving, clearly pointing to that they want a regime change.
Yes, basically what is happening that this protest is against the rural over there, and that is the reason that they want Khamenei to go out, and that's why they are changing the flag as well. Basically, what has happened that for last several days, what we have seen that the situation started, troubling for Khamenei because they continuously people those who were protesting on the road, they were protesting in a few numbers. But with the passage of time, what we have seen that the number of people those who are protesting against Khamenei that started increasing, and they are supporting and wants a Shah regime to be returned. So after Khamenei basically took over and changed the flag, that seems to be the reason that they are now moving on the roads with the two new flags that clearly indicates that is basically they are planning to topple the government over there in Iran. So how this is going to happen, that has to be seen, but with new flags, and that clearly indicates that the tough time of Khamenei is going on, and how he is going to tackle it, that has to be seen.
Absolutely, Ajay. Please do stay on with us. Large protests continue to erupt across Iran. Demonstrators gather in large numbers in the city of Mashad, and reports suggest that the crowd continues to swell, with the gathering set to be much larger than previous nights. And this comes even as the nationwide protests cross the 12th day mark. So, Ajay, obviously the previous days when we saw there were large protests, but for Friday it's very significant. Friday night was very significant for Iran because the son of the last Shah of Iran actually told people to come out on the streets on Friday night and join the protests. So we saw a large number of people, actually more new people, joining the protest on Friday night.
Yes, with every passing day, the strength of the protesters, the number of the protesters that is increasing, and that clearly indicates that son of the Shah, who was ruled Iran previously, he basically gave it a call that gather in the streets of Iran on the Friday evening, and yesterday it was the Friday evening when thousands of people, they basically reached there and they raised their voice against the Khamenei, and definitely it is not going to be that easy for him. When Shah's son is himself is leading the protest and giving the statements, it means a lot, because we have seen in the previous times as well that anti-incumbency and anger of the opposition and the people, that is something which cannot be controlled, and especially when mass protests of these kind of that is something which is really different. And when it comes to that, thousands of people, they start gathering in the streets without any fear and fear of force or the fear of a law. It means that that is not controllable. So that's why thousands of people on every street can be seen, and this is something which is happening for the first time if you compare it for the last previous days.
Absolutely, Ajay. In fact, in some more breaking updates coming in, protesters are reportedly have burnt the Mashhad al-Rasul, or the Mosque of the Prophet, in Sadat-Abad near Shahid Tehrani Moghadam Square, northwest of Tehran, on fire. Protesters reportedly set it ablaze, viewing such mosques as regime symbols, and security forces were reportedly stationed at the mosque to suppress protests. So, Ajay, obviously, like we have been talking about, people are demanding a regime change, and since it was a theocracy where religion forms the basis of the entire ruling class over there, people saw mosques as a symbol of the regime, and hence they are even targeting mosques over there.
But we can see that the way basically the mosque has been targeted by the protesters in Iran, that clearly indicates that it is not only the anger against the rule, anger against the government or the ruler, but it is only they want regime to be changed, because the Iranian protesters set fire to the Al-Rasul Mosque in Tehran, and that is that clearly indicates that the Islamic government rule they don't want, and that's why they are doing such things over there. And the way basically these protests are going on everywhere in Tehran or other part of the Iran, that clearly indicates that the change is going to happen. That is, they are not going to compromise less than a rural change over there.
Absolutely, Ajay. In fact, protesters have also gathered outside the BBC headquarters in London, voicing strong criticism over what they describe as insufficient coverage of the ongoing anti-government demonstrations in Iran. The demonstrators, which included members of the Iranian diaspora and supporters, have been heard chanting slogans such as Ayatollah BBC, shame on you, accusing the broadcaster of downplaying or delaying reports on the widespread unrest that has gripped Iran since December. All right. So, Ajay, obviously now people are talking about Iran globally. However, the supporters of Iran, the Iranian diaspora in London, have pointed out that BBC might have been just not giving out, proper reports. They are doing delayed reporting, and this is their grievance. They are saying that they need to portray what is there on the ground.
Yes, these protesters not only are, disrupting the normal life in Iran, but those who are angry and sitting abroad, they are also, raising their voice. And BBC, also the BBC channel, we have seen that, we can see that in the visual, that how protesters with the flag, Iranian flag, they are protesting, and they are saying that they are not covering the full, wave of protest over there in the Iran, and that's why they are raising voice as well. And when these kind of anti-government protest takes place with the full aggression, that is something which basically can lead to any result. So that seems to be the reason that people are basically those who are not in Iran. They want to see that what exactly is happening, and that's why blaming BBC that they are not covering it properly and not showing that what exactly is happening over there.
In fact, Ajay, we also have the US President making a statement on this, and US President Donald Trump has said, has spoken on the use of force by protesters against the Islamic Republic. He is saying, and I quote here, "We are watching the situation very carefully. I have made this statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved." Let's in fact listen into that statement.
So Iran's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So we don't want that to happen. There have been cases like this where President Obama totally backed down. But this is something pretty incredible that's happening in Iran. It's an amazing thing to watch. They've done a bad job. They've treated their people very badly, and now they're being paid back. So let's see what happens. We're watching it. We're watching it very closely. So Iran's in.
So Ajay, obviously we saw earlier as well that US President Donald Trump had warned Iran, the government over there, that they should not use force against the protesters. Now with the deaths of protesters increasing, we are seeing a number around 40, 45. US President Donald Trump is saying that the US is now monitoring the situation over there and they might intervene if things go out of hand.
Yes, as we said earlier as well, that Trump basically, when gave some certain statement that was seen that protesters, they basically got refueling in a way. So that's why once again Trump's new statement in which he says that we are continuously monitoring the situation and eyeing that things will not worsen. And he says that killing civilians could lead to the more trouble. And they say that we are definitely monitoring and we will intervene if it is required. And the thing in Iran, we have seen that how that is very terrible because on every day the protesters, they are marching in the streets, they are setting ablaze the buildings, flags, and any government office over there in Tehran and other part of the Iran.
All right. Thank you so much, Ajay, for all those updates on those various stories. In fact, in the meeting with